One of the top stories here on Al Jazeera. Palestinian Christian leaders have rejected the US decision to recognise Jerusalem as Israel's capital, calling it dangerous and an insult. More than 200 people are dead and many more are missing after a tropical storm devastated the southern Philippines. Tens of thousands have been forced from their homes and a state of emergency has been declared in several areas. North Korea has called the latest round of UN sanctions an act of war. It says countries which supported the fresh measures would pay a, quote, heavy price. The Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny says he's gathered enough nominations to challenge Vladimir Putin in next year's presidential election. His supporters have gathered across Russia, securing signatures to get Navalny's name on the presidential ballot, even though he's been banned from running. Rory Challens has more from Moscow.
Alexei Navalny, who is perhaps the most popular and charismatic leader of the opposition in Russia, has been trying to clear one of the administrative hurdles to being allowed to run for president next year. Now, what you have to do as an independent candidate is gather at least 500 people in one place so that they can endorse you as their candidate. And so he has been setting up 20 such meetings in cities across the country, thinking that the authorities were going to be shutting most of these down. In Moscow, he has been refused most of the venues he's applied for, so what he did was set up a tent, a large tent on a river beach in a leafy part outside the city. 700 people turned up and endorsed him, so he has cleared part of this administrative process. However, it's unlikely still that the Kremlin is going to allow him to run. They see him as a threat. It's unlikely he would ever actually beat Vladimir Putin in a head-to-head. This was always politically motivated. Well, the Kremlin says that bars him from running. There is another event that's going on later in the day, organised by a different opposition figure, Ilya Yashin, who says that his new position as the head of a municipal district in Moscow allows him to set up demonstrations. That's what he's been trying to do, but the police have been tearing down the stage today. They've been sealing off the area, and Yashin has backed off a bit, saying that his supporters, although they still should come down, should not bring any political banners. They should bring only flowers instead to avoid arrest. All this, I think, shows that as we head into the election period, it's in March 2018, that the tussle between Russia's opposition movements and the authorities is only going to heat up.
More than 2,700 people in Turkey have been sacked over alleged links to what the country is calling terror organisations. Soldiers, teachers and bureaucrats have been dismissed as part of the latest emergency rule decree ordered by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In total, 150,000 have been dismissed or suspended from their jobs since the failed coup in July last year. Marwan Kabalan is the Director of Policy Analysis at the Doha Institute. He says President Erdogan is using the attempted coup as a pretext to crack down on dissent.
Well, I think at the very beginning, his reaction was fully understood because that was an attempt on the life of the president and an attempt actually to overthrow a democratically elected government. But I think after that, he went too far by using that as a pretext actually in order to purge not only the military, in which he actually used that or in fact, he seized on that golden opportunity for him in order to bring the army under his control. Because for the past 15 years of AKP rule, actually, the military has been the bastion of secularism in Turkey. And it was very much the party which has resisted so many reforms that the president has suggested in order to bring the whole state apparatus under his control. So he took that opportunity actually to bring the army under control. But as I said, he went too far when he actually purged also the state bureaucracy. He fired hundreds of university professors. I know for sure that some colleges in Turkish university don't have teachers actually to teach the courses. He purged also the judiciary. So he went after almost all those he was suspecting of opposing him, whether actually they had links to the movement of Fethullah Gulen or not.
Cosmetic surgery is on the rise in China. It's now so popular there that China has become the third biggest market for the procedure after Brazil and the United States. But those wishing to change how they look are increasingly at the mercy of illegal practitioners. Adrian Brown reports from Shanghai.
11 years ago, Chen Lin decided she did not like the way she looked. She's since spent more than $20,000 on injections. Her visits to this Beijing clinic have become as routine as going to the hairdressers.
The
injections made my chin more pointed and my face longer. Later, I had surgery to my nose, which was flat before. Now it's higher. I also made my lips fuller and my skin smoother.
This was her pre-surgery and before problems with immigration began.
Once, immigration stopped me and made me recite my ID card number 4 times. Every time I go through immigration, the expression of the officer is one of a big surprise.
The pursuit of physical beauty is big business in China. Last year, 3,000 operations were carried out at this Beijing clinic alone, one of the city's biggest. The popularity of plastic surgery is driven by social media and the growing obsession with selfies. In a Shanghai park, I met Ge, who didn't want to be recognized. He thought a makeover would improve his job prospects. He had double eyelid surgery, but it went badly wrong. Ge can no longer sleep properly, and that's taking a toll on him.
I can't close my eyes at all when I try to sleep. This is why it's so painful. My biggest hope is that I can close my eyes and sleep well. To many people, this is nothing, but this is my dream.
He can only close his eyes by using a special lotion. These razor scars are evidence of 2 attempted suicides. In spite of the many well-documented stories of botched operations, there appears to be no shortage of Chinese women and men who want to change the way they look. But they are increasingly at the mercy of illegal practitioners. And the government's now so concerned, it's begun a campaign to shut them down. That is not much comfort for Ge. He's now saving for another operation so that he can hopefully close his eyes again. Adrian Brown, Al Jazeera, Shanghai.
A quiet revolution in the way we work is happening all around us, but some leading thinkers say governments are failing to keep the public informed. Automation and artificial intelligence are creating a new world where millions of jobs will simply disappear. In the first of a 5-part series on AI, Lawrence Lee examines which jobs could be most under threat.
Can you play music?
Cool. Understood.
In the future, it's likely many people will have one of these in their home. After all, it will sing songs and dance for your kids, or tell you how to cook a meal, or teach maths. But this could be a classroom assistant.
Exactly.
But what interests business about these robots is that they can be put in a supermarket and tell you where the yogurt is, or go into the lobby of an office block and tell you where to meet your contact.
We're speaking to large blue chip companies who want to use them in their offices. We're speaking to care home providers. We're speaking to hotels, car manufacturers to use in their showrooms, a whole variety of financial organisations, banks, retail, supermarkets, quite a large sector.
Businesses are extremely cagey about talking about their interest in artificial intelligence. Not surprising, given that robots or algorithms could replace humans in any number of ways. Jobs in insurance, the law, financial services, other clerical roles are already being lost. Entire professions are projected to disappear. And if a robot can be designed to build a house in a couple of days, and the movement of goods will be performed without humans, then it's clear that in rich countries, vast numbers of jobs in all pay grades could be at risk. In agriculture, designers are working on a robot which can distinguish between leaves and stalks to pick fruit. Very little appears outside the imagination. Some people are genuinely asking what jobs there might be left for humans actually to do, and one answer seems to be things with our hands, because robots don't have motor skills, so things perhaps like working with food or cutting hair or gardening. But clearly much of this is monotonous, and it's not very well paid. So who will give us money or pay for things if we no longer work or raise taxes? Increasingly, it's being suggested that a so-called universal income may be the answer, being paid not to work.
Today, suddenly universal basic income is a serious policy option. There's lots of experiments going on as to how it can be done, what effect does it have. It's moved much more into the mainstream, and that, I think, is a consequence of all the changes that we're seeing going on.
To provide the United States of America, every citizen in the United States of America, with a decent basic income, or I think they were using a income scheme, would cost a quarter of the military spend budget in America. So it's not unfeasible.
But the biggest question of all is whether it would make us happier. Could it be that technology offers us the option of having almost all time to ourselves? And if so, is it a dream come true, or would we get bored? Cautiously, the world of business is asking where the boundaries are and what we are prepared to accept. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, London.
It's been a month since Emmerson Mnangagwa was sworn in as Zimbabwe's new president. He inherited a bankrupt economy and high unemployment from longtime leader Robert Mugabe, who stepped down after a military intervention. Harry Mutasa reports from Harare on what progress has been made since the changeover of power.
Prices of basic commodities have gone up since President Emmerson Mnangagwa took over last month. People seem to prefer shopping in the store because it's a little bit cheaper than others, but it's still frustrating.
Where I was supposed to buy groceries for $30, I'm having to fork out $60 or $70, 2 or 3 times fold. Things have gone up so much.
Mnangagwa's new administration has promised to end crippling cash shortages. This hasn't happened yet. Some economists blame what they call greedy business owners.
Mere market indiscipline, coming from the background of companies trying to make as much fortune as possible before prices stabilizes.
But shop owners say the shortage of foreign currency is to blame. Some have to buy dollars on the black market at a premium. To remain viable, they insist they have to hike prices. The government accuses some business owners and politicians of breaking the exchange control law by illegally stashing money abroad and not depositing it in local banks. The president says he has a list of individuals who have money overseas, some of it stolen and smuggled out of the country. One of President Mnangagwa's first acts was to order a 3-month amnesty for the return of stolen money to the country. People have until March to do so, or they will be arrested. Despite the huge economic challenges, there have been small positive developments since Mnangagwa became president. The government says civil servants will be paid on time this month. Some ATMs are now giving US dollars. That had not happened for months. The new administration is also trying to mend strained relations with some in the international community.
We shall ensure the sanctity and security of your investment and shall honor to the letter all agreements we enter into with you, including bilateral investment protection agreements. In terms of the law, the right to property shall be respected.
Many Zimbabweans hope Mnangagwa will turn around the economy.
We are positive. We're trying to be positive. We hope for good changes. We hope for a better country.
Zimbabweans know it'll take time for the situation to improve, but until the new president's promises become reality, long lines outside banks and rising food prices will likely continue. Harun Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Harare.
Plenty more news for you anytime on our website. The address for that is aljazeera.com. And you watch us live by clicking on the live icon, aljazeera.com. The headlines for you on Al Jazeera. Palestinian Christian leaders have rejected the US decision to recognise Jerusalem as Israel's capital, calling it dangerous and an insult. It follows weeks of demonstrations across the occupied Palestinian territory over the decision, leaving at least 15 people dead. Hod Abdel Hamid has more from Bethlehem.
Certainly a certain level of satisfaction because ever since that Jerusalem declaration, Palestinians have been very adamant of showing a united face when it comes to Muslim and Christians and their view about occupied East Jerusalem. So certainly the words of that came out of the church really goes along with everything else that has been said here ever since that declaration.
More than 200 people are dead and many more are missing after a tropical storm devastated the southern Philippines. Tens of thousands have been forced from their homes, and a state of emergency has been declared in several areas. The storm arrived on Friday, and floodwaters rose very quickly, leaving people little time to escape. North Korea has called the latest round of UN sanctions an act of war. Its state news agency says a stronger nuclear deterrence program is the only way to frustrate the US. It also said other countries which supported the sanctions would pay a heavy price. The UN imposed extra measures on Pyongyang on Friday, following its recent intercontinental ballistic missile test. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny says he's gathered enough nominations to challenge Vladimir Putin in the March presidential election. His supporters gathered in 20 cities across Russia, securing signatures to get Navalny's name on the presidential ballot. Navalny has been banned from running due to a criminal conviction. Nearly 3,000 people in Turkey have been sacked over alleged links to what the country is calling terror organisations. Soldiers, teachers and bureaucrats have been dismissed as part of Turkey's emergency rule decree, accused of acting against national security. In total, 150,000 have been dismissed or suspended from their jobs since the failed coup in July last year. Those are the headlines. Do stay with us if you can. Inside Story is up next. More news after that.